Tonight, we're going to be looking at a story from, well, it's from Reddit's No Sleep community.
Okay.
And for anyone who doesn't know, No Sleep is basically a place where people go to share uh, supposedly true horror experiences.
I see.
And they write these stories with so much detail, and they're so vivid, it's really easy to kind of get caught up in them and forget that they're, well, hopefully they're fiction.
Yeah, I've heard of that subreddit.
Have you?
Yeah. It's supposed to be pretty scary stuff.
Yeah, and this story that we're going to be talking about today is it's no exception.
Okay.
It's I got to warn you, it's pretty unsettling.
All right, well, I'm ready when you are. I always find those firsthand accounts, the ones that really make you think, what if? Those are the ones that really get under my skin.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, lay it on me.
Okay, so this one is told from the perspective of a 75-year-old man.
Okay.
And he's finally decided to share this secret that's been haunting him for, well, basically his entire life.
Wow, 75 years. That's a long time to carry something like that around.
It is, and the story actually starts back in the 1950s in Maine.
Maine.
Maine, yeah. Our narrator was just a lonely 9-year-old boy then.
Yeah.
And he found solace, kind of an escape in the town library.
The library, yeah. It can be a real sanctuary for some folks.
It can. He'd spend hours just wandering the aisles, lost in the pages of books.
Yeah.
And one day, tucked away in a forgotten corner, he came across this small, unassuming wooden door.
A door.
Yeah, a door.
What kind of door?
It seemed really old, like older than time almost.
Right.
And it had this heavy black knob it was engraved with a single footprint.
A footprint. Now that's a little creepy right off the bat.
Right.
Yeah.
So of course, driven by, I guess, just childhood curiosity, he opened the door.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did.
I don't know if I'd have the guts to do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he did. And he found himself enveloped in darkness.
Ooh.
And after taking a few tentative steps forward, his fingers brushed against a string dangling from above. It's like an old-fashioned light bulb pull.
Okay. I've seen those in old houses.
Yeah, exactly. So he tugged it.
Uh-huh.
And this dim glow revealed a rickety spiral staircase descending into, well, even more shadows.
That doesn't sound very promising.
No, it doesn't. But he ignores any sense of self-preservation, any fear.
Wow.
Yeah. He just pressed on like he was being compelled by some unseen force.
There's something about the unknown, isn't there?
Yeah.
It draws us in even when we know it might be dangerous.
Yeah, it's like a moth to a flame.
Exactly.
So anyway, he makes it to the bottom of the stairs, and there's this massive red door standing before him.
Okay.
It's glowing faintly from within, so he pushes it open and finds, well, a library.
Another library.
A library, but not like any library you've ever seen. This one felt like a hidden paradise. It was smaller, more intimate, and it was filled with brightly colored books, plush armchairs, and the most incredible scent.
A scent.
A scent, yeah, like a mixture of citrus and pine.
That's interesting. Citrus and pine, like a very specific combination.
It was very unique. So this secret space became his sanctuary, a world away from the dreariness of his everyday life. And for 3 years, he spent countless hours there, just lost in stories and surrounded by that comforting aroma.
A secret library. I can practically smell those old books now, the musty paper.
Yeah, it's a very distinct smell.
Yeah.
But as with all things, innocence gives way to experience.
Yeah. Right.
And on his 12th birthday, everything changed.
Oh.
He arrived at his sanctuary later than usual that day, and the aroma that once felt so inviting, so comforting, it now seemed sour, almost oppressive.
Oh, that's not good.
No, it's not. He followed the pungent odor to a shelf at the back of the room, and there he found a large leather-bound book.
Ah.
A single black footprint marked its spine.
A footprint like the one on the door.
Exactly like the one on the door. He cautiously opened the book, and a single sentence, written in blood-red ink, stared back at him.
Ooh, blood red ink. What did it say?
It said, "Rest your sorrows down, friend, and leave them where they lie."
That's ominous.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he tries to ignore it. He starts turning the pages, but each one is blank.
Blank pages, huh?
Blank pages. Until he nearly reached the armchairs in the center of the room.
Okay.
He turns to the final page, and there he sees his own name written in the same disturbing script. Panic surges through him, and he bolts for the door. But as he reaches for the knob, he freezes.
Why? What happened?
The armchair that had always been empty, it was now occupied.
Oh my God, I can barely breathe. Who was it?
An old man dressed in a suit
Yeah.
sat observing him with this knowing smirk.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it is. The boy, terrified, demands to know who the stranger is and what he wants.
Right. I don't blame him. I'd be terrified too.
The old man just gestures to the empty seat beside him.
Okay.
His voice is laced with a strange mix of sympathy and amusement when he speaks.
Okay.
So the boy sits down,
All right.
and the old man tells him bluntly that his mother is dead.
His mother.
His mother.
Oh, wow.
She took her own life, he claimed, and the scene was gruesome. And then he offers the boy a way out, a refuge from the pain that awaited him.
A way out. I wonder what that could possibly entail.
He proposed a journey, an apprenticeship of sorts,
Okay.
where the boy could escape the hardships of life and potentially inherit the man's quote-unquote noble work.
Noble work. That sounds suspicious.
It does, doesn't it? Naturally, the boy is skeptical. He refuses to believe his mother's gone. He flees the library, ignoring the old man's parting words.
What did he say?
He said, "Your road won't be easy, friend. If it ever becomes too much for you, you know where to find me."
Those words, they have such a haunting weight to them, you know?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Tragically, the old man's words proved true. The boy found his mother exactly as described, a victim of her own despair.
Oh, that's awful.
And from that day forward, he was haunted, not by a ghost in the conventional sense, but by that same citrus and pine scent.
The scent.
The scent. It was always present during moments of profound loss and tragedy in his life.
That's heartbreaking. The smell, once a source of comfort, has now become a symbol of his pain.
Exactly. He tried to find the hidden library again, desperate to understand, maybe even to bargain, but it was gone, vanished without a trace. The librarian insisted there had never been a basement, that zoning laws prohibited it. He went on with his life, married, had children, but tragedy continued to follow him. The scent accompanied every heartbreak, miscarriages, accidents, his wife's eventual illness and death. And now, alone in his old age, he smells it constantly.
The poor man. It seems like he can't escape his grief no matter how hard he tries.
And recently, something shifted.
Oh.
He found the door to the hidden library once more, back in its original place.
Yeah.
Every evening, his walk takes him past that library, past that door, but he hasn't entered yet.
That must be an incredibly difficult decision to face, to return to a place that brought him both comfort and despair.
It is. He's torn. Terrified of death, but even more afraid of continuing to live with the constant weight of his sorrow. The old man's words echo in his mind. "Rest your sorrows down, friend, and leave them where they lie." The story ends with him contemplating his choice. Enter the library and face whatever awaits, or continue on his lonely, grief-stricken path.
What a heart-wrenching story. So much to unpack there.
There certainly is.
That hidden library, a sanctuary that turns sinister, it feels like a really powerful symbol, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Like a physical manifestation of denial, almost.
Right.
A place where he could just bury himself in stories surrounded by that comforting aroma and forget about, well, at least for a while, forget about the pain of his reality.
Exactly, yeah. He could lose himself in that world, but it's like he's just delaying the inevitable, you know? He can't hide from his grief forever.
Right, and then on his 12th birthday, that illusion is shattered.
Yeah.
The scent turns sour, the book with the footprint appears, and the old man arrives, like a harbinger of the truth he could no longer ignore.
And that brings us to the most enigmatic figure in the story. The old man.
Yeah.
Who is he really?
Yeah.
Is he like a messenger of death? Or maybe some kind of devil offering a Faustian bargain? Or is he something else entirely?
Well, his offer of refuge, a way to avoid the pain of his mother's suicide, it is particularly intriguing.
It is.
It suggests, a deeper motive, something beyond simply escorting souls to the afterlife.
Yeah, some people think he could be like a manifestation of the devil himself.
Uh-huh.
Tempting the boy with escape in exchange for eternal servitude. And the imagery does kind of support that, right?
It does. The footprint, the blood red ink, the sickly sweet scent that becomes this harbinger of tragedy.
Exactly. It all points in that direction. But there's also this strange sense of compassion in his offer.
Yeah.
A genuine desire to alleviate the boy's suffering. He acknowledges the pain. He offers a solution. He even seems to crave companionship.
Right.
It doesn't quite fit the archetype of a cold, manipulative devil, you know?
No, it doesn't. And that's what makes this story so fascinating.
Yeah.
The old man defies easy categorization.
He does. He really does.
He could be death, but not a menacing Grim Reaper figure.
Right.
More like a personification of loss itself, acknowledging the inevitability of suffering as just a part of the human experience.
Yeah, I can see that. And yet he also represents something more insidious, you know, like the temptation to surrender to grief, to just choose oblivion over the arduous task of living with loss.
And the recurring scent, it adds another layer of complexity to this whole puzzle.
It does. It starts as something alluring, comforting, even intoxicating, but then it transforms, you know, it becomes this harbinger of doom. It's a visceral reminder of his trauma.
Right, and that transformation speaks to the insidious nature of grief itself. It can permeate our lives, twisting the things we once found solace in, turning them into painful reminders of what we've lost.
Exactly.
The fact that the story ends with him standing before that door once again, faced with the same choice he made as a child, it's incredibly poignant.
It is.
It suggests that maybe there is no escaping the darkness. You know, no true refuge from the human condition.
And maybe that's the most terrifying aspect of the whole story, where we're left to grapple with this unsettling notion that what we perceive as escape might actually be a descent into something far more horrifying.
It begs the question, is succumbing to that temptation truly an escape? Or is it simply a different form of imprisonment, treating one kind of suffering for another?
Exactly. The story doesn't provide any easy answers, and that's what makes it all the more unsettling, you know? We're left to confront our own fears and desires, our own vulnerabilities in the face of loss.
And that recurring question, you know?
Yeah.
If faced with a similar choice, what would you do?
Yeah.
It lingers long after the story ends.
It does.
It forces us to look inward, to examine our own coping mechanisms, and to consider the potential consequences of choosing escapism over endurance.
It's a chilling reminder that there are some things we simply can't outrun, no matter how desperately we might wish to. The darkness, it will always find us, and the true test, it lies in how we choose to face it.
So we've talked about the hidden library and what it might represent. And we've discussed the old man, this mysterious figure, and his offer.
Right.
And that haunting scent that follows the narrator throughout his life.
Right.
But there's another aspect to this story we haven't really touched on.
Okay.
What it reveals about us, about human nature.
You're right. The story, it goes beyond just, you know, cheap thrills and scares.
Yeah.
It really makes you think about some uncomfortable truths about ourselves.
It does. We all face hardships, moments of grief and loss that feel, well, unbearable.
Yeah.
It's only natural to want to escape that, to crave a reprieve from suffering.
And that's where that hidden library comes in. It represents this world where sorrow can't touch you.
Right.
Where you can just exist in this realm of imagination and comfort.
Yeah.
It's a seductive idea, you know, to just shut out the darkness and retreat into a haven of our own making.
But this story warns us that such solace comes at a price. The narrator's attempts to outrun his grief only lead to more suffering. Every tragedy marked by that scent, a constant reminder of the refuge he rejected. It's like his decision to embrace life, with all its pain, well, it bound him to a different kind of torment.
And that raises a really unsettling question. Was the old man's offer actually an act of kindness? Or was it a cruel manipulation? Was he trying to spare the boy from a lifetime of pain? Or was he setting him on a path to even greater suffering?
It's a question without a clear answer, and I think that's what makes this story so effective. We're left to grapple with the ambiguity, to think about the consequences of choosing escape over endurance. The story never actually tells us what the old man's noble work is, which only makes things more mysterious and unsettling.
Right. Is it some kind of servitude? Or an embrace of oblivion, or something even more terrifying than we can imagine? It's a chilling thought. What if what we think is an escape is actually a descent into something far worse?
Yeah. It makes you wonder, maybe true peace doesn't come from avoiding suffering, but from learning to live with it, to find meaning and resilience in the face of despair.
Maybe.
This story leaves us at a crossroads, just like the narrator.
Yeah.
We can choose to embrace the world with all its beauty and pain.
Right.
Or we can seek solace in the shadows, forever haunted by what we've left behind. And maybe that's the most powerful message of this story.
You think so?
I do. There's no escaping the darkness. There's no true refuge from the human condition. We can only choose how we face it, how we carry the weight of our sorrow, and whether we let it consume us or refine us.
It's a powerful thought to end on.
It is. This story, it leaves us with a sense of unease, but there's also a glimmer of hope. It reminds us that even in the face of darkness, we have the power to choose our path. We can seek temporary comfort in the shadows, or we can step into the light. Armed with the knowledge that even in darkness, there's always hope, there's always resilience, and there's always the possibility of finding meaning in the midst of suffering. Thank you for joining us tonight.